It's Wednesday, December 1, 1999, and this is an interview with Sandy and Caroline Paton. What is going on?
Hello?
Hi, is this Caroline Paton?
Yes.
Hi, my name's Mike Scully. I'm
Hi.
in Texas.
I knew that you were possibly going to call this evening.
Now, was tonight the night you're going out, or was I had a...
Well, no. Sandy's on the line, too.
Oh, hello, Sandy.
We weren't sure. We were mostly going to be home all week, and
Okay.
fine. We're both here.
I was going out tomorrow, so I said, let me try tonight. I wasn't quite sure from the...
That's fine.
So, where should we begin? I think...
With a question from you.
That's all right.
You can begin wherever you like.
Let me ask you this first, and I ask it particularly, I know you're concerned about attribution for some things, so I just want to get this clear one way or the other, and we can even change during the conversation. I typically tape record the interview so I can keep track of who said what and get it accurate, but I want to know if that's okay with you folks.
Okay.
All right.
Sure.
All right. I guess then the first thing we can do is let's start, since I have to start with something concrete, with what you might remember about getting invited to this creation that was going to be called the Folk Alliance, or maybe it didn't have a name yet.
Let me ask you first if you can hear me all right on this portable. Sandy, are you upstairs?
Yeah, I am.
I can hear both of you.
I may just walk with this to a regular phone that's a little
Okay.
better quality.
Well, I can hear you fine.
All right, you can still go on.
Okay.
Okay, I will start. I don't believe it was originally planned that it would be called the Folk Alliance.
Right.
It became that,
Mm-hmm.
and that was partly the insistence of the committee that drew up the bylaws and so on, the steering committee.
Right.
Because everyone was dead set against having anything that came out sounding like NAFMADA, which would be kind of a meaningless
Okay.
sound.
Actually,
and wanted
Sandy-
a meaningful... Yes, Caroline?
I know there were some different names being bandied about when we reached that point that were acronyms, and my idea was that if it was North American Folk Music and Dance Alliance, it would be better to call it Folk Alliance than, that at least was an understandable two words that indicated something of what it was all about.
Mm-hmm.
And I recall.
And I remember Mark Moss finally agreeing that it could be called that, but saying that we should never use the acronym.
Uh-huh.
As you were pointing out, I think the question then was, there was one name where, because he wanted it to be an organization of organizations and not necessarily open to individuals,
Mm-hmm.
he had wanted a different name. And so I feel one of my real contributions to it was that I did fight for that name, and I think it is clear. Nowadays, NAFMATA could get easily confused with NAFTA and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I've never heard it referred to as that. I mean, people just ignore that. They just call it the Alliance or the Folk Alliance.
Well,
Well,
the
they ought to
agreement,
they ought to call it the Alliance because it's lost the folk.
Right.
Okay. I'm
but
sorry,
the agreement was that if it was North American and Folk Music and Dance Alliance, instead of Alliance of North American Folk Music and Dance Organizations, that it would never be called by the acronym, and that was just fine with me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I feel that acronyms, sometimes they are,
Right.
sometimes they're acrimonious. They're mumbo jumbo to people that don't know what they mean.
So what were you getting invited to Malibu to do, as far as you knew?
Well, to determine if there was a national desire for an organization, Clark and Elaine really came up, I guess,
Right.
originally with the idea.
And did you know them previously?
Well, yeah, we had
Their festival, or
festival.
right? Okay.
Anyway,
Sandy, as a matter of fact, what happened was we were invited to a New Year's weekend at the same camp where this Alliance get-together was held.
Mm-hmm.
And because, we don't go flying to California every day without concerts or, just for a business trip.
Yeah.
And Clark and Elaine said, look, we got this idea to have people get together and talk about a national organization. And it's just a week or two after the New Year's camp that we were already invited to.
Right.
And we said, great, we'd love to stay for that. And a lot of people did come from all over. We're to New Year's and just came on their own nickel.
So you made a week of it out in
Oh, a couple of weeks.
Malibu.
we had some other concerts we got a chance to.
Oh, good.
But we were fortunate enough to be able to be there because
Right.
we did have some jobs right near it, and we had those before this even came up, and they called us and told us about it.
And what was the idea? A national organization, but of what, for what?
I think to make more professional the promotion of traditional music, of folk music,
Uh-huh.
in the various organizations around the country that pay tribute to it. I
Okay.
mean, the small coffee house, the larger small festivals, the organizations, Pinewoods Club or the
Right.
what have you, and to sort of develop a national organization that would assist them in broadening or increasing the interest in folk music, the awareness of it,
Okay.
and as an alternative to more commercial forms of music.
So far sounding reasonably benign.
I think equally important, too, was they felt that in unity there was strength and there would be more clout
Mm-hmm.
for organizations that were involved in this. And, from my own standpoint, I felt bringing people together who maybe know each other through the phone or a letter but haven't met, and, that good word networking, it just brought people together and brought all sorts of things, made things possible that were a little harder to do from a distance.
Right.
I don't think they were unaware of the fact that an organization representing a fairly good size, a good number of people, might have more chance of getting grant money or some attention in Washington among the NEA
Right. Uh-huh.
folk committees.
That's what I meant by cloud.
Yeah.
Sure.
That, there would be a national organization, an advocacy organization for these folk arts, and they didn't include storytelling because there's a pretty large storytelling organization already, and
Also, there
we
were
had to draw some limits somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
also there was some thought, I think, that many of the people that were doing folk music programs were not really terribly sophisticated in promotion,
Okay.
and that exchanging ideas with others who were doing it maybe more successfully could help increase their market share in the various communities in which they produce performances. So
The value of networking.
Sure.
anyway, all this came about, and the meeting was. Then the meeting voted to establish a steering committee to draw up bylaws and sort of
Right.
define the direction the organization would take.
As it was doing that, was the group, was your sense, at least in the weekend, that this was a group that was interested in tradition, as you might use the term?
Well, more than it turned out to be.
Okay, because so far it's sounding like this could be a good thing.
The first steering committee, people were really, a lot of them definitely interested in tradition.
I would say definitely.
Okay.
I remember that when the committee was being voted on, I said that I wanted to represent the backyard singers,
Uh-huh.
people who did it for fun.
Shelley Romalis used that phrase in a phone conversation with me today. I don't know how well you know.
Yeah, I'm a back porch.
Shelley Romalis
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she was.
of The Woods, she was there, yeah.
Just thinking of her and of Margot Blevin at Augusta, who were both on the
Yeah.
original, and we didn't know either of them beforehand, and got to know them really well.
Right.
Shelley's great.
She used the word backyard singers. Anyway, Sandy, I interrupted you. I'm sorry. You wanted to...
That was my pitch when I was asked to make a statement prior to the election.
Uh-huh.
And that I didn't want the small groups of organizations, the folk song societies of East Apron Strings,
Yeah.
to be left out. That in terms of an organization that would focus on commercial uses or applications of this music.
Right.
And I think that was one of the reasons Caroline and I were elected as one of the steering committee members. I guess they decided after that two people do not a committee man make.
Yeah.
Now let me explain, Sandy. On the steering committee, there were actually 3 couples who were elected as a unit, and if there had been a vote that was critical, they were considered one vote.
Right.
They had to agree or each be a half vote. Clark and Elaine Weissman was one of the couples. This was their, dream, something, their scheme that they dreamed up.
Right.
And one couple was Bob Cohen and Diane Tangle from Philadelphia.
Right.
That's how we met.
Are very involved in Philadelphia Folk Song Society, and they do a lot of. She does hospitality, and they do a lot of grunt work for folk down in their area. And then Sandy and I were the third couple.
She produces or is the strong arm behind the Northeast Regional Folk Alliance meeting.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but and that wasn't the case at that time.
No.
Sure.
And when it became, that was in Malibu, and the next year
Yeah.
we went to Philadelphia, and the idea was, were we going to form an organization or not?
Yes.
And the decision was yes, obviously. And when they elected the first board of directors, they decided at that point, no more couples sharing one vote.
Oh, okay.
It meant that I think instead of 12 people, we had 15 because we had 3 couples. And, Sandy was on the original board, but in some ways, I think having 2 people, you got a lot more because everyone has different strengths and different weaknesses, and somehow in the couples, and they balance out. But,
Sure.
definitely, they went down to 12 people, and Sandy was on the board for what, a couple of years, Sandy?
Well, at least one. I can't remember. I was eager.
Eager to leave.
Not inclined to try and do it again.
Now, I guess I'm trying to get a sense of where the emphasis lay initially. Did they talk about preservation in the sense that maybe a public folklorist might, or was it really about selling tickets and in that way preserve?
The idea was to give strength to organizations to promote performance of folk music and dance.
Okay.
Music in a broad sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't realize at the time how broad that sense was going to be.
Now, I gather there was some discussion about defining the word folk, and it was decided not to do that. Was there something around there?
Also, they decided it wasn't the sort of thing where there was going to be any test of joining. If you wanted to join, you could join. Although, as I sort of referred to earlier, there were people like Mark Moss, the editor of Sing Out, I think initially thought it should be an organization of organizations.
No individual memberships at all.
Right.
So when members individually were going to be allowed to, then there was quite some tug of war over how you would have a voting system that would be weighted so that
one that came out of the Folk Alliance, you mean?
The original
Yeah, right.
mission statement.
Right.
You know, the one to which I contributed a few phrases, like
Okay.
the continuing relevance of traditional song,
Uh-huh.
which is no longer part of the statement.
Okay.
They took it out?
Yep.
That's interesting.
Well, I do know that people whom we know read this mission statement and very much wanted to be at the Philadelphia meeting or whatever. They just felt this is expressing exactly how I feel
Uh-huh.
about folk music and so on. And as we all know, one guy we know at that time said, you know, I'm worried that the people who feel they have the most to gain financially are going to be the ones who really support it the most. And, you know, some of the people who might like to go can't always afford to. Somebody called us last night quite upset because his record company wanted him to go, and he figured to the Cleveland meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and he figured that to go was going to cost him $1,000 in, you know, conference and fee and
Right.
sharing the room for a showcase and hotel room and food and airplane, and he just didn't feel he could afford it. Plus
Yeah.
losing some of his work.
I just read on one of the folk DJ posts, the folk DJ listserv,
Yeah.
somebody saying that the showcase room that they have provided for some of their artists had a few opening spaces for other people who might want to do a guerrilla showcase in their room, and for $100 for a half an hour,
Oh,
you could,
gosh.
hire yourself a space to be heard.
Oh, gosh, they're bartering.
Appalling. I really.
Oh, yeah, I didn't realize that. That's the first time I've realized that, because people are selling slots in their rooms.
Spaces, right.
Oh, my gosh. I had...
Well,
I mean, you know, it's probably going to help cover their expense, but you know, they're springing for the
Right.
or the suite or whatever.
Now, I know
He
who...
was saying that his record company was asking him to kick in $350.
no,
Oh, gosh.
that's quite accurate. They wanted, if he had agreed to go, then he would have had to share in the cost of the suite that they are renting for the weekend at the hotel. And so I said, well, how much will that cost? Now he said the conference is going to be $400, but maybe that's Canadian dollars. I'm not sure, because he is Canadian. But when I said how much would it be to share in the showcase, and he and his wife said not more than about $300, $350. But even so, I mean, he really didn't want to go. He thought it was going to be a financial disaster. He said to us, "Are you going?" And we said no. And I think eventually he just decided he was going to tell him, and maybe he was going to tell him he couldn't afford it. I think it's pretty expensive for, quote, folk.
Well, it's clear that that type of thing has nothing to do with community-based singing.
That's true.
Nothing whatsoever. So what was the composition of the group? I gather it was what folkies tend to be, and I mean not the steering committee, but the whole group in Malibu at Philly. Was it white middle-class folkies like
Oh, yeah.
me, by the way? Like,
The whole revival is that.
yeah, okay.
You know, I've known of occasions where Pete Seeger said, "Sure, I'll come and sing for you if you can guarantee 20% African American in your audience."
Uh-huh.
And you just can't do that.
Right.
You can do any festival in the country and not get 2%.
Right.
So let's face it, it's a white middle class phenomenon.
Now, there was discussion at Malibu, at least it showed up in the minutes that Phyllis Barney gave me, of the fact that, to the extent that what were referred to in the minutes as ethnic group representatives were invited, and I presume by the Weissmans, but
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
attend. Did you folks know who she tried to invite? And
Mexican groups, I think the French Canadian in Canada, I guess in the meeting in Phoenix there was some Native American participation.
yes, there was.
And,
Jim Griffiths brought that.
And I think that has
Sandy.
yes,
This is in Malibu?
In Malibu.
But certainly, if there were any people who represented minority groups, it was very much in the minority.
Well, that's interesting. They performed, but were they there in the business meetings and elected to the steering committee?
So,
That's interesting.
and I know that Clark and Elaine made an effort to reach the Spanish-speaking Los Angeles community,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe in some later event, like one of their solstice festivals or something, they were successful in that. But no, there's been very little. And now that it's become what it has, then there's even less reason for.
Well, they'll have speakers. I know they'll hire a speaker who will come and talk about, Mexican.
Sure. I guess I'm wondering if the group has used, if any of these groups have used the Folk Alliance for their own purposes, as say the singer-songwriters collectively have used it to advance their own agenda. I mean, I think the answer there is no. But
Well, the answer has been no at the meetings to which we have.
yes.
At which we've.
I guess I was real curious, though, at the inception of the organization, at the Malibu conference, at the steering committee meetings, and then at Philadelphia, was there some real concern expressed then about who we've tried to bring in as business participants in this thing, and they're not coming?
There was some talk at all of these about the fact that we were described as a North American organization.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, there was a strong effort to bring the Canadians in.
Yes.
But an unsuccessful effort to reach Mexican embassy
Mm-hmm.
or cultural attaches and so on.
Right.
Do more with that, but there has never been any success in bringing in other languages.
Right. And was it Clark and Elaine who kind of spearheaded those efforts initially in the first couple of years?
They were the ones that mentioned it in the beginning.
Yeah. Okay.
There have been some African American board members I know
Mm-hmm.
over the years.
Well, there
But
was.
what were you going to say, Sandy?
I think there was one year that I was on the board.
What was their name? His name? Her name?
Remember, he never showed up.
Oh.
It was
Was he a dancer?
off the record, a token.
Right.
Was he a
Appointment.
dancer or what do you remember? Was he a musician?
Funny, I think he was a musician scholar.
Okay.
I think he was more of a scholar, but I never met him. So
It was
I can't answer.
that was in the early years,
The first year.
after it actually was after Philly.
Yeah, I think he was elected just as Ed Miller. You probably know. don't you?
Yeah. I don't know him personally, but yeah.
Last year, and never was able to make it to a meeting, and so he was dropped, and someone else brought it in his place.
Yeah.
But every time he couldn't afford it.
Yes.
I mean, here I am in Connecticut, and they call a meeting, and they put it in a hotel in California.
Chicago.
Yeah.
And another one in, we went to both, dear.
Right.
Remember the big California place with the huge atrium? And then Chicago at the Ambassador West. My God, it cost you $1,000 to
Yeah.
go to a board.
We did have some jobs for that one, but when you were on the board alone, I know you did fly to Chicago and stayed in a hotel just to go to this meeting, and we can really ill afford that.
Yeah.
We were interested in trying to get this launched. We felt it did have a lot of good potential. Also, I do feel that you can't really have an organization like that and say, well, yes, you can come in, but no, you can't. The sheep and the goats sort of thing.
Yeah.
That if someone wants to pay their dues and if they're interested in the Folk Alliance, then they should be able to join. But we were at a festival earlier this month. We have a good friend who recently married an African American woman, and he is the only white man in gospel quartet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really neat. He's always loved gospel music and rhythm and blues, and now he's in the what did they call it? The Gospel
Gospel
Messengers.
Messengers.
Uh-huh.
And they performed at this festival, which, like a lot of things in the revival, was pretty much lily white, and
Yeah.
they all came
there ever...
in time to do their 45 minutes on the stage and then get the limousine out.
Now, was there ever a desire to involve any professional folklorists, if not from the Academy, at least from the various public folklore groups that do field work in the cities and what have you, and do...
We had Tony Seeger on for a while.
Yeah, although he was running a record company by then, and that was kind of his role.
So was I.
Right, sure.
He was a little more busy than mine, I think.
Yeah.
And
And I don't think he was there as a public folklorist so much as he was there as the head of Smithsonian Folkways.
yeah. But, you know, he's more academic in the long run than most of the board people have been.
I guess I'm looking for somebody who would say, was there any strong advocate of tradition who was vocal in your day? About Jeff Warner, yeah, about the turn that the organization was taking, and I've talked to Jeff a lot of times. I mean, over the years, and I've known him for a while.
I mean, Jeff was one that at least knew what it was all about.
Yeah.
There were people. I won't be quoted.
Okay.
A fellow from the Old Town School of Folk Music who said that they could only get grant money in Chicago if they put on traditional performances, and what he was putting on was popular music of other languages.
Yeah.
And now, of course, they're putting on the most commercial stuff they possibly can, and it's a big billion-dollar business.
Yeah.
You know, lounge music in Greek is still lounge music.
Absolutely.
But, you know, they've been...
Except it can fool people more easily.
Well, you know...
It makes people that are giving you grants feel that you're being multicultural and therefore you're
Right.
politically correct and
Yeah.
so on.
You know, I've always felt that even if you couldn't exactly, you know, it would take an essay to maybe try to explain why. If you hear music from another culture where you don't know the language and it's genuine traditional music, it just has something about it. You can tell it from the lounge music.
Yeah.
It's like the famous quote of was it Potter Stewart who said,
I know it when I see it.
I can't define
Pornography.
Pornography.
pornography, but I know it when I see it.
Right.
And with traditional music, if you say you know it when you hear it, it makes you sound like some sort of snob that, you know, you're better than other people and you're putting down something that sounds commercial and shallow to you. But a lot of times that authenticity really rings through.
At the moment, there is a big discussion on the folk DJ list about who's the significant folk music composers of the past decades.
By that you mean composer of
Composer of
type
folk-
material.
Yeah, so, well,
Yeah, I know they do.
They seem to think that people can write folk songs. But anyway, a person very active in Folk Alliance and very active in a very large festival said the Beatles
yeah.
were obviously the most important folk song makers,
Influential.
unless we've been living on a different planet than she has. And the fact, you know, that they wrote pop music doesn't mean beans to her. She doesn't know what a folk song is to start with.
Right.
Anyway, this was her contribution. Well, then it stirred up a hornet's nest of people saying, well, if you're going to include them, then you've got to include Irving Berlin and you know,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. So it's a problem.
Did the Alliance, while it consciously stayed away from defining the word folk, as we mentioned, did it ever attempt to wrestle with traditional, or was that too far gone?
I think traditional would have been easier to define than folk.
Yeah.
It's because of this incredible confusion that equates the word folk with the word people.
Yeah.
And this is everyone attributes to Big Bill Brunsey saying he never heard a horse sing.
Yeah.
Which to me is nonsense.
Right.
First of all, I don't think Brunsey was academically qualified to define folk music for the rest of the world.
Right.
Aside from that, he might have been a great musician and all the other things. But the term folk has become any song that people do, and that's just nonsense. You know, it means that the term is meaningless.
Well, sure, if you could include absolutely everything that
Right.
is not specific to anything. But let me about that first gathering and the first steering committee, there were a lot of real folk, I would say significant people in the country really interested, like the editor of Sing Out and people from various areas who had made a significant contribution.
People representing organizations that do large festivals. I mean, there were people from the Philadelphia Festival there.
Right.
And
I'm trying to remember, though, if anybody from that group got on the steering committee.
Which group are you saying? Well, Mark Moss was on the steering committee.
I guess Bob Cohen
Yeah.
and the Old
Bob
Town
and
School with
Diane, sure.
and the Old Town School with
Yeah, it also had Jim Hirsch on it from the Old Town School, and Jim's a businessman, without a doubt.
However, I would say there were a lot of people like us and Shelley and Margot. Well, you probably have the list there.
Jules Alvin from the Fox Valley.
Yeah.
He likes folk music.
Now, everybody has their own particular little bent or shtick or whatever.
Right.
And then, of course, there was the man who was really head of the Bluegrass Association.
Art Menius.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then he became the Folk Alliance director
Yeah.
quite a while.
Right.
But no, I think there was a lot of very genuine and serious interest in traditional things. And, there are a lot of people in the Washington Club, the New York Club, and the Boston Club who are real traditionalists. And we have friends who worked very hard on the Washington conference, which was the last one we went to.
Mm-hmm.
And they arranged for some lovely big meeting rooms for various things. One night was ballads, one night was a cappella, one night was, chorus songs.
But again,
And there was a circle, maybe of 50 people.
But again, this was all revival singers from the middle class who love folk music, sing traditional songs,
Right.
and rarely sing written songs that are all the rage at the Folk Alliance meetings now.
Well, I think they sing written songs that are written in the traditional style.
Right.
More of that, that reflect the traditional music. But
But-
these are people who are the back porch singers that we represent.
Sure.
But the point I was going to make is the people who actually went to that and made sure that there were places in the hotel where these singers could get together, and I think there were other places where instrumentalists could jam. But let's face it, instrumentalists can jam in a lobby in a hotel, and a 20-verse ballad is going to lose a little bit if there's too much background going on.
Right.
But these same people, the next year, did not go to Toronto. We were considering it. We have many good friends in Toronto, Shelley being one of them, of course. But I was not convinced they were really going to provide for places for people to get together without the commercial purpose, without the showcase, okay, you listen to me do my thing.
Right.
You be the audience, I'll be the star. And I asked the couple who had been so important in Washington if they were going. They said no, and what they said was too much money for the work. It wasn't that they couldn't afford to go.
Yeah.
They could have afforded to go, but I think they felt the Folk Alliance was drifting away farther from what they were interested in themselves.
What they had in Toronto was a pub crawl where you got to go around from one participating pub to another to hear other people perform.
Right. Right.
And there was almost no participatory singing going on in meetings.
Sandy, what were the...
Remember in Philadelphia, Caroline, they gave us a hallway down at a bend in the motel corridor where people could swap songs if they wanted
No,
to.
it was a lounge with a fireplace. Sure it was. No, it was a little lounge.
Sandy, what were the issues during the year you were on the board? What was it wrestling with? That was, I guess you became a board member in Philly.
It's hard to
remember.
It's hard for me to remember.
I understand.
I was so bloody bored.
Did they ever reach?
A few things. Oh, how to establish the business operation of it. If we hire an executive director on a salary basis, would we hire a part-time person who could handle that, but then we should have an accountant or someone to function as treasurer, and all this sort of thing. Should we have some experienced grants person to come in and be a participant in I don't know.
Did they ever reach beyond their own organization to talk about what they were going to do out there in the world as opposed to how they were going to function internally? You established these 5 broad goals: education, networking, advocacy, field development. Did they ever talk about those things?
Oh yes, oh yes.
In the meetings in which I attended, mostly, I'm thinking of the Chicago meeting, the real problem was how to establish a functioning organization.
Okay.
With a director, with a full-time person, with a part-time person, with a whatever.
But there
Caroline,
was
yeah, you say.
discussion and hope that, the kind of advocacy and outreach that hopes, they would bring more people in, let more people know about it. And let me just say, one thing about the steering committee, we were advised to hire a facilitator, and we did, and it was a good thing because, some people just go on and on and on, and there were some issues that had to be ironed out, like this business of whether individuals could join as well as organizations, or whether it should be all organizations. Now, you know Ed Miller pretty well.
Me?
Yeah.
No, I do not know him pretty well.
No.
I know who he is. I've seen him in town. I listen to his radio show. I've gone to see him perform, but I don't know him well at all.
Let me say that at the Toronto meeting, Sandy, just to set the record straight, I know that there was a showcase room where people like Ed and other, more traditionally oriented people did sing. So I don't know if you say it was Kaylee or if it was a series of performers, but I'm sure they did chorus songs. But it wasn't like Washington Square. They planned and arranged for very lovely big rooms. People get together and really have a sing. And traditional music was what was stressed, and the people who wanted to sing their latest, more pop-oriented songs went elsewhere. There were all sorts of, obviously there are showcases. There could be a showcase in every hotel room in the hotel.
All right. When did it turn for you guys? When did you decide no more, really, for us? Pardon me? You couldn't afford to.
Various meetings in Phoenix or Albuquerque or,
Right.
or Portland or wherever. And,
Yeah.
And then, the question was why buy a membership in the organization if you're not going to attend the meeting, which is the primary thing that the organization gives you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And,
We would do it if money were no issue with us, but
Sure.
with money being really tight and this being a difficult business to keep going, the last conference we attended was Washington. We did not go to Toronto. Now, what was that, about 4 years ago? Then geographically, it was west, because, they go to different parts of the
Right.
country every time.
Yeah.
We couldn't afford to go to
Phoenix,
Yeah.
Portland. We didn't go to
Calgary.
Arizona. We didn't go to Albuquerque. We didn't go to Calgary. If they had it again in Boston,
Right.
which is a 3.5-hour drive for us, I would go again.
Sure.
I wanted to go to Memphis
Uh-huh.
because I'm interested in Memphis,
Yeah.
but it didn't work out for us, so I didn't do that either.
Yeah.
Definitely, the way it's set up and the way it is so commercial,
Sure.
Out of the hundred and some titles, we've only got about 30 titles left, but
Mhm.
It boils down to paying to have a booth in the display, the area,
Uh-huh.
in order to give away all the CDs you take with you to the DJs that come by and want promotional materials.
Well,
What?
there are organizations there looking for good people's book and so on, but you would say that probably for every one of those, there are probably 25 eager beaver artists, giving away chocolate chip cookies.
Right.
There was one gal, she was giving away Cheez-Its. And
Cheese nips.
cheese dips, and she said to our friend from Toronto, she said, "Well, come to the showcase in my room. I've got white cheddar." It really sounded like a proposition
Yeah.
instead of a cracker.
Can I ask, what would you guys have liked it to turn into? What would a national organization that the Folk Alliance sounded like? What would it have done? Who would have been in it? How would it have?
I think we would have had more participation from the National Endowment, people like Bess Hawes,
Okay.
Joe Wilson.
Mhm.
The stress on introducing the urban revivalists to the source people of the music that would enable them, as some of the things originally did at the smaller festivals. I mean, I remember when at Fox Hollow you could bring in Lawrence Older, the Adirondack fiddler and singer. You could bring in Sarah Cleveland, the great ballad singer from Hudson Falls. They'd bring in Dan Smith, the black former Alabama harp player and gospel singer. And the white kids from urban Albany would get to go up and hear and learn from and sit at the feet of
Right.
some of the really fine ballad and traditional performers.
Yeah.
But that wasn't happening, except now, of course, I'm reminded by Bob Blackman and people like that even Anna Fritz Warren, that the Copper family was at the last couple of Folk Alliance meetings. People got a chance to do that. They honored Alan Lomax and they honored other
Bottle
people.
copper.
Yeah.
So this is, saying, look, there's traditional material there, and people were able to hear the Copper family perform.
Yeah.
And yet I feel there's a certain amount of tokenism in that, because the real push, if you look at their showcase committee decisions as to who gets to perform, you're getting, one pop folk, so-called folk act after another.
Right. Mhm.
It's almost as bad as Falcon Ridge,
Right.
if you're familiar with their showcase.
Yeah, I've seen.
Michael, I'm curious as to what you saw as Jeff Davis's take on all this.
Jeff Davis or Jeff Warner? Jeff Davis?
Yeah, Jeff Davis.
Boy.
One who's really spending more time with it now.
Yeah, Jeff writes I think Jeff would like to see the conference be, far more traditional and do far more community work. Far more work fostering traditional programs in schools and in communities, and get involved and put their imprimatur on things like that.
So he's not discouraged.
I could talk more about Jeff Davis than I can about Jeff Warner in that respect.
I meant.
Okay. Yeah, Jeff Davis writes the traditional. I talked to him, I don't know, just a few months ago, and he was lukewarm about it. I think I don't think he expects too much from the Alliance anymore. I asked him if he was going to go to the next conference, the Cleveland conference, and he said probably, barring some financial problems, if he could pull it together, he would go. And I think his emphasis was a little different than yours in that he would make the effort, he would take the hit to get there because he likes to see people there.
Well, I do too. One problem is there are two of us.
But yeah, I don't think he.
Cost.
My sense about Jeff is that I don't think he feels it's going to change too much or do much for the type of thing that he spends his life doing, you know?
Because when you have a membership that is now predominantly pop folk,
Yeah.
then the vote obviously goes to support the pop folk attitude.
Right.
You know that Margaret MacArthur